Hello, Bashar.
And a you good day. And
How
your
are you?
vote is?
My vote, I wish it was different, but it's for the 5 laws.
Because?
I like the number 5.
Oh, all right. Good enough.
So, I wanted to ask you about a relationship in my life.
Yes.
My relationship with my father.
Yes. What about it?
I'm struggling with it, and I have
Struggling with what?
with having a relationship.
Because?
I find it hard to connect with him, and I find that,
You are not operating on similar wavelengths.
yes,
Yes, you are, or yes, you are not.
we are not.
Oh, all right. And so?
And so I'm perfectly fine allowing him to, as you say, operate on his wavelength. but
Doesn't sound like it.
Well, it's because
Yes.
I feel that he imposes
Imposes
his
what?
wavelengths on other people.
How is that possible?
I don't know. I need help.
It's not. It's not possible. Other people may choose to believe that it is and thus create those wavelengths in their own reality, accepting the wavelength vibration he is offering, but he cannot actually physically impose his wavelength on anyone if they don't create that mirror wavelength in their reality. He doesn't have that power. No one does.
So how do I...
So how do you stop accepting the same wavelength in your own life?
Yes, because
Well, why are you choosing to mimic it in your life? Why are you choosing to align yourself with a wavelength you say you don't prefer? Why are you recreating that state of being for yourself when you know that that's not who you prefer to be?
Well,
Remember that when we talk about the idea of choosing your vibrational state, it's about the idea of choosing what you prefer regardless of what anyone else's intention is toward you. Because they have no effect on you if you don't choose to be affected. And if you choose to be affected, you're simply creating the same wavelength out of your own energy.
yes, that's the problem I'm having. I can feel that happening.
But why are you choosing to do that? What are you getting out of doing that? Are you feeling that somehow if you don't do that, you will be dishonoring your father? By not matching his wavelength even though you don't prefer it? That you will be a bad child? Or something like that? Why do you believe that if that's the case? How old are you?
I'm 22.
Speak up.
22?
A master number. Time to go through another gate, another change. Time to mature. Time to grow up. Time to stop listening to bedtime stories that you don't agree with. Do you understand?
Yes.
Time to tell yourself a new story. Time to be a new story. You don't have to buy into the old stories if you don't prefer to. You are old enough to make that decision on your own. Do you follow?
Yes.
And yet, what prevents you? What do you fear by letting go of things you don't prefer that are connected to your father?
My attachment to my mother and my brother.
Why do you fear that that will dissolve?
Because I feel like
Yes.
somehow he may stop that connection, or by not having a connection with me, he might take it out on them.
And again, you understand that the only way that that is possible is that if they agree to abide by that. Do you believe that they will?
I believe that they might.
All right. And if they do, so what?
Well, that's painful.
Why?
I'm not sure.
Yes, you are.
I am?
Yes, of course you are. Why is it painful? You want me to tell you?
Please?
All right. It's painful for you because you're identifying and replicating their pain in yourself. You don't have to do that. How about replacing your pain with compassion for them? So that if they do decide to match the negative frequency that you don't prefer and cut themselves off from you, you can have the compassion to understand that the only reason they would ever do that is because they themselves have bought into fear and negative beliefs that don't serve them in positive ways. And you can have the compassion and the insight and the perspective and the adult maturity that they don't have. So that in reflecting that adult compassion and maturity back to them, you at least give them an option to know other things they could choose in creating a relationship with you instead of the things that they might choose that would cut them off from you. Because you are not cut off from them, they are cutting themselves off from you. By remaining in a vibration of compassion, you will always be knowing that you are connected. And you will not have to feel that as pain when they choose the experience of disconnection, because you will know it's not possible to actually be disconnected. It is only possible to create an experience of disconnection. But that doesn't mean that you're actually disconnected. In fact, the paradox and the irony is that the only way you can create an experience of disconnection is if you're connected to all that is. And you are part of all that is.
Okay.
Are you able to be mature enough to have the compassion to understand that they are simply struggling with beliefs that they don't know how to change?
Yes, and I know that.
One moment. Not so fast. And are you mature enough to understand that if you succumb to the pain and you create the pain within yourself, you are giving them no other option but to remain in that state? Because they see in you no example of how they could change their mind? But if you come with compassion and understanding and realize that the only reason they would do that is because they are having their own difficulty with their own negative beliefs, if you come from compassion, you at least give them an option, another doorway through which they could walk and remain in the experience of connection to you. Do you understand that's the only way to help them?
Yes.
Then why not help them instead of imprison them by reinforcing the same negative vibration that they are giving off?
Well,
yes.
That's kind of the direction I'm going. I think I just needed
a push.
Yeah, reassurance.
All right. Well, I will reassure you. The more that you are willing to be yourself, truly yourself, and the vibrational state you prefer to be, the more help you are being of others, including those that choose not to accept your help. But at least you give them the option. You always provide a doorway. You're always accessible. Even if they choose not to access you, you're always accessible and compassionate and available. Always. Because you have unconditional love. Unconditional love for them, even though they may choose to express conditional love. You understand?
Yes.
And even your father is expressing love. It just may be that he was never taught the tools by which to express it appropriately.
Yes, I agree with you.
Well, if you understand that it's simply a lack of understanding, then you can have compassion that he simply didn't learn the proper tools. Yes?
Yes.
And if he didn't know the proper tools, but you do, then why not demonstrate the use of the proper tools in your compassionate response to anything that he may send your way that is simply not a vibration you prefer? Isn't that what you prefer?
Yes. Here's my issue, though, Bashar.
What is your issue?
My issue is that I do that, and then to a certain point, it feels like, for some reason, my happiness wall is down.
Then you have a definition and a belief you haven't discovered yet.
Yes. Can you help me find it?
Well, what happens when that wall comes? What are you experiencing when you hit that wall?
I feel like I'm experiencing the same kind of emotion. It's like fear and anger.
About what? About what? What are you angry at yourself about?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. Of course you do.
Can you tell me again?
What are you angry with yourself about? Remember, natural anger only lasts about 15 seconds. If it lasts longer than that, it's negative judgment.
Okay.
So what are you negatively judging yourself about and projecting it on to them? I am not saying that they may not bear some responsibility in giving you a crash course in negative belief systems because they themselves only had that to teach to you. But the idea, nevertheless, is that if you now are mature enough to understand that that's what it's all about, then when you hit that wall, all you're saying is you are negatively judging yourself for accepting those lessons. You're angry at yourself for perpetuating things on yourself that you didn't need to perpetuate on yourself. And you're projecting it on them and blaming them for having started that cycle.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter if they started the cycle. If you know that there is a cycle, you're outside of it. Remember, a habit is something you do you don't know you're doing. Once you're aware the habit is there, it's gone. Awareness of the habit is not the beginning of letting it go, it's the end of it. So, if you recognize, if you're at a point in your life where you recognize that they may have taught you certain negative beliefs, and that's all well and good, and you were caught up in those patterns up to a certain point, then what you are now experiencing is the idea that you are berating yourself for continuing to buy into those things beyond the point that you recognize that you have the ability not to. You follow me?
Yes.
So, stop blaming yourself. Stop blaming everyone or anyone. Just understand that you now have the power and the maturity to recognize what you prefer and what you don't. And just because someone may have taught you more of what you don't prefer doesn't mean now that you have to hold on to those beliefs if you really don't prefer them, because all you're doing is anchoring yourself to something that you say you don't prefer by holding a grudge. You understand?
Right.
So, if that's not really what you prefer, don't hold a grudge. Don't blame. And don't blame yourself either.
Okay.
You did the best you could. You are doing the best you can. You are doing just fine. If you weren't, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
Thank you.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Believe in yourself a little bit more strongly. Is that something you believe you can do?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right.
Can I
Does
ask
that help
another
you?
question? Yes, so much.
And?
And I have one more.